And it also doesn't help if they say they're HIPAA certified.
Are we going to go down that road?
Well, we kind of need to. Let's end
about
with that recommendation right away.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
In this episode, we're going to discuss technology support requirements under HIPAA and why professional HIPAA compliant IT services are an important part of managing your security compliance. So, Donna, let's talk about HIPAA compliant IT services and what people need to understand when they're out there looking for IT support. And one of the things that changed in the final rule, the omnibus rule in 2013, is that a practice and even business associates can no longer just use anybody for their IT work. Is that right?
Well, kind of. I mean, you should have had somebody signing a business associate agreement before, but a lot of people weren't necessarily worried about what was in that agreement. Now you have to care because the business associate, which is also your IT company, is separate and equally liable for compliance with portions of the privacy rule, security rule, and your breach notification requirements.
And just to dispel the myth, there is very little chance that an IT company is not going to be a business associate.
Well, if the IT company doesn't have any access to administrative rights of your server and never removes a hard drive that could have unencrypted PHI on it, and never has access to your encryption keys, then maybe you could consider them not requiring a business associate agreement. However, I don't see how well you could do IT support without any of those.
No, I mean, in my IT company, when we remote into a client's computer to help them, even if we, taking all those things you just said in consideration, if that were to happen, we still could remote in there, and we do it all the time, and they have that PHI pulled up on the screen.
Yeah.
They have their EMR software open. So we see that. So there's, even given everything we just talked about, there's still a high likelihood that you're going to be exposed to it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't even put that on the list, so you can add that to the list. Never have remote access to your network in any way. No secure remote access. No control over your firewall. None of those things.
Right.
It kind of takes out pretty much anything you can do and be.
They can work on your printers. Yeah.
Not if they have a drum.
Maybe. Not if they have a drive or a drum.
A drum or a drive. Some of those old
copy
ones.
machines.
Copy machines and the drives.
Yeah. So really it's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible.
I don't know a case where they could actually provide adequate service without being one.
Right.
So we're going to call it impossible, even though it could be debated all day long.
So what are practices to do, and how are they to do it when it comes to finding HIPAA compliant IT and dealing with them and all that stuff? What does the security rule say about those things as far as the requirements go?
Well, with any business associate, the security rule expects that you're going to have them sign a business associate agreement, and that you should have some assurances that they're understanding and doing the HIPAA compliance requirements that the BAA commits them to. And so some people take that approach and say, well, if they signed it and they tell me they're doing it, that's good enough. More and more people do not believe that's good enough, and that's I think changing rapidly across the industry, that you need further due diligence to ask for details on not every little detail about compliance, but ask enough questions so that you know. And so the security rule wants you to perform some due diligence and make sure you get them to sign a business associate agreement. And if they won't do those things, you really need to move on.
Okay. And I see that a lot. Do you see that a lot where you're at?
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the first things that we do with clients when we're going in to work with them is we have them do due diligence. We have them do their due on all their business associates. And we've had people, I mean, I'm in there just to help with their compliance. We don't really market a lot of IT services at all anymore because we're so involved with compliance. And I have people all the time just berate us and attack us that these are unnecessary questions and it doesn't apply to them. And I mean, just having a fit that we're trying to steal their business. I don't want their business. I already got the business from the client that I'm interested in. I want you to do your due diligence with them because it's my job to help them be sure that they're compliant and that they do the best they can to protect their PHI.
Now, does hiring a non-HIPAA compliant IT company, let's say that a company comes in and they sign a BAA, but they don't do compliance or anything else, but they would sign a BAA, what does that mean for the practice?
What do you mean they wouldn't fill out the due diligence form?
Well, they couldn't because they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, they're not. They can't complete it because we do have people that we send it to, and they get about halfway through the 28 questions we ask, and they just quit because the questions got too hard for them, and they think that they're irrelevant or unnecessary. And in those cases, we counsel our customer, the client, our joint customer, that they should work with their IT company to get them to become HIPAA compliant, because under HIPAA is you get them to sign a BAA, you start to ask if they're actually doing what the contract says, and if you suspect they're not compliant, you only have a certain number of choices. Choice number one is to try to correct the problem, which is to get them to be compliant. Choice number two is to stop doing business with them and find somebody that will. And choice number three applies if you can't find somebody else to do that work for you. It's like you're in a small area, it's a very specialized commitment, something like that. Then you have to report to HHS that you're using somebody who refuses to be compliant. So it's not something that they can just say, oh, okay, well, I've known you for 20 years. I trust you. We're good. You can't, because if they're not doing it for themselves, then they don't properly understand what's required for you.
Right.
Whether you're a covered entity or a business associate, because there's plenty of business associates out there it's all new to them.
Now, there's a high likelihood that somebody could have been using the same company, like you said, for quite a while, and even maybe have signed a BAA in the past, but when the changes came down in 2013, then that put a lot more requirements on that IT company.
Right. And the changes where somebody's actually saying, don't just tell me you're compliant, prove it. Mm-hmm. A key to being able to prove it is your IT company. So I think this might be a good time to talk about what it means if they actually understand HIPAA compliance, what they'll do differently than the ones that don't.
Okay. Let's get into that.
So since you do that, why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Well, in my HIPAA compliant company, and I will say, let me bring a term to the forefront, because for people who are not involved in IT, they won't know what this is. But my company is an MSP, and an MSP means a managed services provider. And basically what that is it's an IT company that offers services in which they manage. So just what it says, managed services provider. And how that's different from a regular IT company is a regular IT company will most of the time come in and do work on an as-needed basis. That's what we call in the industry break-fix work. But with managed services, we come in and instead of being paid to fix things when they break, we're paid to try to keep things from breaking. And so we're trying to do the same thing that the client wants, which is no downtime and nothing to go wrong. We try to head all that stuff off beforehand. And of course, it's not possible for it to always happen, but there's a much better likelihood that you will. In the case of having HIPAA compliant IT services, then some of the things that really matter are doing the remote monitoring, the management, the patch management, which means your updates that come out for Windows or whatever operating system you're running, as well as your third-party applications, whether it's your Adobe programs or Java or any other programs you're running, anything that requires updates, all that needs to happen either manually or automatically. And there's reporting that goes along with that. There's auditing. There's just a plethora of things that happen within those services to help keep the client compliant.
Yes, so we call that patch management and vulnerability scans and, if necessary, penetration testing and all those things are involved under what an MSP generally would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's more stuff coming out all the time. I mean, we're looking at a software now that will actually go out and look at everything on the network and try to find PHI, or they'll try to find personal information, credit card information. It just looks everywhere for everything. And because one of the problems we run into, especially when we pick up a new client, is they don't really know where their PHI is. They may or may not have a server, but they don't really realize that more times than not, they have personal information floating around all over the place. And so it's a process that we have to go through to try to find that, and it sometimes can be difficult.
Yeah, sometimes it's a needle in a haystack, and you don't even know the haystack exists until you stumble across it. It's in the back part of the pasture.
Yep, I had a client not long ago. They called me up and said that they had lost some data, which always scares me. But they have lost some data, and I said, "How did you lose it?" Oh, well, I don't know. We went in and we created all these things, all this data yesterday, and today it's not there. So anyway, long story short, in going in and looking around, they actually had 3 different sets of data in 3 different locations in their network. And for some reason, they had logged into one on one day and another on the other day. And they had no idea that there were 3 sets of all these different file sets out there. I think it was I don't know how it happened, but I think it was a process of having multiple IT companies over the years that come in, and instead of cleaning up what the last company did, they just kind of built on top of that and said, okay, let me just copy it and restart.
Yeah.
And so I think that was kind of what happened. We were about the probably 3rd IT company within 5 years. And the reason why they brought us in is because of the HIPAA compliance side of things. They had to have somebody HIPAA compliant, and the other company refused to do it. So they brought us in, and of course we found a lot more than just, compliance problems. They just, just a mess. But anyway, that kind of goes to show how that's an issue. And that's another thing that a HIPAA compliant IT company can do for you and will be looking for that a regular IT company is not going to really care much about.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the difference in you have the IT support, which is somebody that's kind of doing it on the side or whatnot. And then you have professional IT support, somebody that's what they do. They have that, they work in that business all day, all the time. And then you have MSPs, which is taking it a step further, and they're saying we're going to be proactive and manage you and have things available, and they invest in tools and things that allow them to protect you. And then you have HIPAA compliant IT or MSPs.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take it to those levels, when you mentioned earlier about, they had multiple IT companies in there, we go in often, and not only was it not HIPAA compliant, but it wasn't even professional. It was being managed by, I always joke and say that, the owner of the company's next door neighbor's nephew is really good on computer games, so they had him come in and build the network.
Right. And
And
sometimes that
it
happens.
does happen. I'm not kidding there. But while you may have a network that works, you can't possibly be certain of the security that's in place or any of the features that you're supposed to have for documentation and controls. And I mean, it's just, there's a massive amount of things that are involved at another level that it requires a professional person to do. And it's not something you want somebody doing on the side when they got some time, because they don't have the time. That's more of, I'm going to help you when you need something.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have systems in place, and so even for us, you and I, we're doing other things, but we have all these systems in place, and we have people that help us. And I have software that's going to let me know if I've got a major problem. I start getting notifications all over the place. I could get one right now. You could get one right now, and we would hang up on this call.
No, we're going to finish this podcast.
We must.
No, but
finish.
yes, we will not stop.
Finish
and if we
must.
do stop, we will edit it, and no one will ever know. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. The different levels of the professionalism is definitely important, and what a HIPAA compliant IT company brings to the game is a game changer. And there's a lot of information that they bring in. I know you started doing HIPAA compliant IT well before I did, but I've already started getting to the point where I'm even doing probably equal amount compliance stuff and IT stuff. And used to be it was 90% IT, 10% compliance, and now it's about 50-50.
Right.
I tend to do and people find out HIPAA compliance, and the next thing you know, you're doing things that have nothing to do with IT and just helping them with their compliance things.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah. So, which is good, because then you have the ability, as an IT person, I have the ability to walk in and give them twice as much value. And as the client, they have the ability to have one person that they can rely on for two separate, very important parts of their business.
Yeah, well, and it's one of the things that I always say, because as you're aware, I teach IT people and IT companies how to do HIPAA for themselves and their clients. And one of the things I stress is, while you don't have to worry about the privacy rule, it's important that you understand that they do. It's important that you understand there may be things in there that you don't know that they should be worrying about that they don't know about. So there's times where those things cross over, and things like the minimum uses and disclosures, you can spot where something's happening that shouldn't be happening, that doesn't necessarily involve your IT support. If you truly understand the bigger picture, at least as I always say, at least ask the question, because we know as IT people, a lot of times people just ignore us. We get to learn all the juicy details of what everybody gossips about while we're working on somebody's computer. And we see and hear things because nobody really notices that we're there. They just, oh, look, they're working on that, and I don't understand any of it, so I'm just going to, go over here and talk to so-and-so, or I'm going to go over here and take this work over here and then yell it across the room. We learn so many things that we could then go back to our people and say, by the way, you may want to mention to the compliance officer, I saw this happening, not to get anybody in trouble, but maybe they need to retrain, or they need to change their policies or reconsider how they have the office set up. And there's a great deal of value in truly understanding the HIPAA compliance requirements because of that, number one. So you want the entire company that's helping you to understand so that they can help you more. And if they truly understand the security rule, then they're able to provide the documentation that you need. And HIPAA is, at this point especially, all about documentation. You can say, oh, so-and-so takes care of that for us, but I got no reports to prove it. Then you really not passing the grade.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
the beauty of the tools and stuff that we use is that it's giving us all of this data and providing all of these alerts for us, but it also gives us reports to show what's being checked and confirmed, down to messages that the hard drive is sending out telling us that it might be having a problem. We get all kinds of details. It's always fun to watch people when you say, well, I'm gonna load this little monitoring agent on here. Monitoring me? What are you going to do? What are you going to watch? What are you going to check?
Yeah.
I want somebody to know where I'm going, what I'm doing. It's always fun when you want to put it on somebody's home computer.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the important part, is the more that your IT company knows, not the more snooping they can do or the more trouble that they can get or the more that they can make you do. It is the better they're going to be able to help you be compliant. And in doing that, it's going to reduce the likelihood of a breach of PHI, which is what the security is all about. In that whole discussion there, I think we kind of talked about what you have to do in the process of security. It's complicated. It's encryption and what kinds of things do you have set on your firewall, and how is your traffic managed for remote access, and who's monitoring to make sure that our system isn't being hacked. And you and I both know you can go out and check a firewall log, pick one, any one right now, right this minute, any minute of the day or night, and you're going to find where somebody's banging away trying to get in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it happens at a very, very, very frequent pace. And what I mean by that is you could literally have 3,000 to 4,000 attempts in a day easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, they tried 5 times to get in today.
Yeah,
no,
it's not somebody sitting and pecking away on a keyboard. They wrote a
Yeah.
program and pointed it at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
you see on CSI or Criminal Minds or any of that stuff, where they've got these programs running trying to get a hold of something and figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
There's rooms of people doing that in some parts of the world.
Now, here's a good question. This kind of doesn't relate too much to the whole topic, but something I hear all the time is, why in the world would they do that? Why are people sitting around trying to break into my computers or anybody else's computers for that matter? Why? So, and I always tell them it's because it pays a lot of money.
It's very
It's a
lucrative.
very, very lucrative business. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I get that question a lot. Why in the world would somebody do that?
Yeah, I don't understand why they do it. Don't they have anything better to do? In a word, a lot of them, no. They're in, some tiny little office building in a strip center in Mumbai, Thailand, or somewhere, Singapore. It's all over the place.
They're in a cave in Afghanistan or something
with a good
Wi-Fi.
satellite link.
Exactly.
But they can be anywhere, and where places where, if you make $2 or $3 an hour, you're rolling in the dough by the time you've worked all day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to make a lot more than that if they break into these things and find a way to discover something exceptionally valuable. And so
Right.
they don't even know. But we do know for a fact that healthcare IT is becoming a bigger and bigger target for multiple reasons. The breaches are getting bigger, which makes it more in the news, which makes it more obvious how poor the security is in healthcare overall. It's a well-known fact inside the industry, and now it's becoming one outside the industry.
Right. And the media coverage just makes criminals look at that and go, hey,
Yeah.
Not only is it not well protected, but it's pretty valuable.
Well, but it also makes people, we get the call of, hey, the doctor just came in and he said, I've been reading about a lot of these breaches. Are we covered? Where before they didn't even care.
Right.
So it helps and hinders at the same time.
Yeah, it does. But it's good that it's good that the practices are now paying more attention to it for sure.
Oh, if they don't try to do it before there's a breach and they try to do it after there's a breach, where there's malware that got into a computer because it wasn't up to date or some of those things, it's absolutely going to be 100 times more painful to deal with. Unsupported software and unpatched software is a huge problem. And if you don't know every machine that's on your network and connecting to your network, and we both know you can't keep control of every single thing because every time you turn around, somebody's bringing something into the office and trying to plug it in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important to teach you the kind of controls to have in place and to be up to date and to have the resources available to point you to when you do have a problem. So if your IT company is the one you're going to call if anything goes wrong, and then they don't have a clue what to do if you have a HIPAA breach, but they did sign the BAA, it doesn't help. And it also doesn't help if they say they're HIPAA certified.
Are we going to go down that road?
Well, we kind of need to. Let's end
about,
with that recommendation right away.
Let's talk about the HIPAA certifications. Oh, yes, HIPAA certified. So to make it abundantly clear, there is not a single government certification for HIPAA compliance that anybody can get anywhere.
Mm-mm. The only people that can say you're HIPAA compliant is HHS and, OCR under HHS. And so if you have a certification, which we do, they're done by other parties. Okay, fine. You should ask, if somebody says they're certified, you should ask who certified them and what did that certification entail. So, I got some certifications I don't even list because I signed on and in 20 minutes answered 20 questions and got some check off my list certification when I started out years ago. Well, I don't really see that as helpful, but that's what some people will tell you they're HIPAA certified with. And I can assure you, it doesn't tell you what you need to know to really properly manage the security rule, the portions of the privacy rule, and there's a lot of people that'll tell you and you say, okay, great. What are the 18 elements of PHI? Can you tell me one you think is odd? They should know one or two. So at any rate, so yes, we talk about the certified. So if you need a HIPAA IT company, you can't just count on them being HIPAA certified. We just read about a breach involving a company that left PHI easily available and they were quote unquote HIPAA certified. It doesn't mean anything. And there's always human error and things like that, but the specifics of some of these things that occur, that they went somewhere and bought some sort of thing or answered 10 questions and somebody gave them something to stick on their website. And so we don't necessarily pay attention just because somebody says they're HIPAA certified. That's not enough. So you don't get them to sign a BAA and get them to show you some seal that they were certified. You need to know what that certification involved and if it was by someone that's going to continue to check on them, and make sure that they have regular follow-ups and classes to make sure they're staying up to date and they're keeping it in their minds. It's not something they lose.
Somebody should create a website for that.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be a great idea.
I know. Maybe something like, I don't know, FindHealthcareIT.com or something like that. Or HIPAA for MSPs.com.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe they should get involved in helping IT companies have the resources they need and the tools they need to be HIPAA compliant.
Right.
That'd be great.
I know. We should look into that.
All right. Maybe that's a topic for the next episode.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we can definitely talk about what we're doing in our other ventures and how that plays into helping covered entities and business associates dealing with and finding HIPAA compliant IT, because we do have the HIPAA for MSPs, which I told you what a MSP was earlier. So there is a resource out there that you can point your IT company to. If you already have one, they're not HIPAA compliant, you could say, here, go here. They're going to help you get compliant and keep you that way, and keep you trained, and in turn, everything they learn will come back to you. So it's an investment. Really, just getting them involved is an investment for you, for sure, as a covered entity or business associate. And so that's one thing that you can do there. And we do offer we talked about a certification, and we do offer a certification, and we do give them the logo to put on the site and all that. And there's many of them out there that do that. But like you said, I think that a lot of them is just, you pay for the course, you get shot into an automated course with automated answers and an automated certificate. And that's well and good for some things, but we take it a step further, and we really get to know who these people are who's taking these tests. It's not an automated process, and everything about it we go through, and as much as we can, we check things that we can to make sure that they're compliant.
Well, and the test is done in 3 parts. It's not just yes or no, click a few things, true or false. So we're going out of our way because we've seen, part of the reason that we started doing that is because we've seen just how limited some of these certifications are on actually checking your knowledge.
Right. Yeah, it's more of a process of really just making money, honestly, when you just
not
call it
what
what
we're
it is.
doing.
No.
I
mean, no, not what we're doing.
We do need to make a
things.
living, but we want to do it honestly.
Yeah, but just churning out certificates and tests and seals to put on your website. I mean, it's just like any other industry. There's going to be people out there that are just in it for the money, and then there's going to be people out there who are honestly trying to help better the industry as a whole. And that's everywhere. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. So you're going to see all of them. Especially in healthcare, a lot of people see that healthcare is something that they want to get into for money reasons. I see articles all the time about, get into healthcare this and get into healthcare that. It's where the money is.
Oh yeah, we've run off several people. Okay, yeah. I'll teach you how to do it, and they don't even make it through the class. They're just like, okay, it's not for me. Keep my money. You've saved me millions.
Yep. I had was it Monday? I had a person cancel their membership to HIPAAforMSPs.com Monday, and that's what they said in their email. Is the reason why I'm canceling is I've just decided that I don't want to touch this.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with it, and that's okay.
Yeah. I'd rather them do that than to, make a half-hearted effort at it.
Yep. Absolutely. So let's wrap it up here for this episode and do a little quick recap. I'll let you go ahead and recap what we did.
Okay. So we talked about the security rule and how technical parts of it really do require professional IT services, and what are professional IT services, and the importance of having HIPAA compliant professional IT services. And hopefully with what we've covered, it'll help you understand the importance of it, and have you on your own search to make sure you're getting the right level of IT support from a HIPAA compliant IT company.
Absolutely. I think it was great information. Very valuable information.
Well, as long as we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have any other questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to go to our website at helpmewithhipaa.com, and you can find all of our other information and podcasts there, and you can also contact us there. Let us know if you have any topics that you would like for us to cover on this podcast, and we'll be more than happy to try to put something together for you. So I really appreciate you guys listening, and have a great day.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.